Why is my weekend's training starting with a park run? Because parkrun is it's like my firstborn child. It's where it all began for me, and even though that was a long time ago and I've moved on, my focus now elsewhere, I still like to check in every now and then, see if it still challenges me, still pushes me to the limit of what I can tolerate. Can it still leave me rolling on the floor in submission while it laughs in my face? Hang on a minute, it's not parkrun, that is my firstborn child. Good morning and welcome to today's video, which is hopefully going to be a really interesting one for anyone that's ever done any sort of fitness-based competition or wants to. And I mean any sort, 5K, 10K runs, half marathons, obstacle course races, CrossFit, duathlon, triathlon, whatever it might be. Because today is all about my Hyrox training for my Hyrox competition in 3 weeks today. Starting off, therefore, with parkrun. 5K in the cold and the wet and the mud, hopefully something around 20 minutes 30 looking at conditions. We will see. Back in a bit. That was Saturday morning, it's now Sunday night. I'll tell you how parkrun went in a moment. First of all, recap on the plan for this video. I'm going to explain in more detail than I've done in previous videos what is involved in a Hyrox competition and why I'm so excited about it, and also why I think it will be good for so many people, many of whom I think might just look at it and assume it's for elite athletes only and not average Joes. That is definitely not the case. Then I'm going to cover the training that I've done this weekend, which is a good time to point out I've never actually competed at a Hyrox, so everything I'm going to tell you about the event is based on stuff that I've read or seen online and my own assumptions, so I could be completely wrong. In fact, if you're watching this video and it's after the end of January 2022, then check in the description, because if it turns out it was rubbish, I'll put that down there. And also bear in mind that I'm not a personal trainer or a coach. I'm not an expert in anything to do with fitness really, so my training might not be ideal. In fact, it might suck. The fact I've left getting serious until 3 weeks before the event suggests that might well be true. So copy me at your peril. Okay, a brief history of my experience with Hyrox. I knew almost nothing about it until the beginning of December, at which point I signed up to compete at the end of this month. A slightly more comprehensive history is that I was aware of it from early last year. I follow a guy called Hunter McIntyre on Instagram, who's an obstacle course racer, athlete, does lots of endurance and strength hybrid type stuff. And I know that he got into it and pretty rapidly established himself as the best in the world. But my sort of cursory glance at it just led me to think it's kind of CrossFit by another name. And also at the time I was focused on doing my first triathlon, Ironman Hamburg, June 21, so I left it at that. So what changed in early December? First of all, had a gap in my diary. Nothing much planned until my Ironman training was supposed to start again in January, because it never happened in June 21 because of COVID, so it became Ironman June 22, more on Ironman in a minute. And when I have nothing in my diary, the temptation is to let my training and diet slide. It's the classic only training for the beach holiday syndrome. So I try and keep going all year round by having something on the horizon, whether it's a local 10K or a bigger challenge like an Ironman or Spartan race. In an ideal world, I would be motivated to just do it without need for that, but I'm not. So that got me looking for events to do late December, early January. I found a bunch of them, did a few trail runs, got out and competed with the dogs, even dragged Jen along for some of them. And while looking at those events, I saw lots of adverts for Hyrox in Birmingham end of January. Normally, I'd have ignored it, as I said. But I'm not sure Ironman June in Germany is going to happen this year. It feels very like January last year, where people were saying to me, it'll be fine by June, and it wasn't. I think there's three outcomes. One, Ironman won't happen. Two, it will, and it'll be normal. Three, it will happen, but with no spectators, mask wearing all over the place, restrictions everywhere. You set off on the swim. By the time you finish the bike ride, there'll be another booster jab you have to have before you can start the run. Bottom line, it will not be the experience that I'm looking for my one and only Ironman. And I think that's the most likely scenario, closely followed by just doesn't happen at all. So Ironman training is not off the table, it's just not as on the table as it might have been. If things start to improve over in Europe the way they appear to be doing so in the UK, I can quickly pick things up again. So I looked a bit more closely at the Hyrox competition, and I actually liked what I saw, especially in comparison to what I've been doing a lot of for the last few years, which is a lot of running, and in particular an awful lot of obstacle course races. A lot. In fact, I just took all my medals down from last year. But while I still really enjoy them, the appeal was diminishing a tiny bit. When I first started doing obstacle course races, I fell in love with them immediately. because mainly I was an okay runner, but never able to get close to the people that were just built better for running distances. Littler people, smaller people, you know what I mean? So here I was, my first OCR, suddenly confronted with having to pick up a heavy weight and carry it backwards and forwards, and found myself overtaking people that would crush me on the running alone. But they were struggling to pick this thing up. I thought, ha, I've got ya. So I dived headfirst into obstacle course races and made real improvements every race I went to. Started off being almost last in my age group, finished last year averaging just outside podium places. In fact, I ended up, because of the points system in Spartan, with third place in the, what they call it, the UK and Ireland Regional Series men's age group. Basically, I was quite a quick old man. But I've reached, I think, a point where I can't go much quicker without very specific training focus. I'm not interested in that. I prefer being a bit of a do lots quite well type person. And last year, I was very aware of being, despite for my size a reasonable trail runner, never one that's going to be great. And obstacle course racing is primarily still running. I could have, and probably do have, some of the fastest times on particular obstacles in Spartan, like the hoist, the heavy carry, the plate drags, but it never translates into a huge advantage because anyone I overtake at that point has then got another hour or two of running to catch me back up. So I finished the year thinking, wouldn't it be amazing if Spartan created a heavyweight category with loads more obstacles that benefit big people? I don't mean big, jacked, muscly people, I just mean bigger people. If you're big, or even average sized man, irrespective of your fitness, you'll almost certainly be a little 130-pound trail runner when it comes to pulling something heavy across the ground. Doesn't matter if it's your dishwasher or a weighted sled. It's physics. Enter Hyrox. The premise is super simple. 1k run followed by a challenge, 1k run followed by a challenge. Keep going, 8k, 8 challenges. Always the same, every event around the world. Someone asked me the other day, doesn't that make it boring? No, that's the beauty of it. Like parkrun, you can turn up at any event anywhere and you know what you're going to get. And you can then compare your performance to previous ones and to other people if you want. When I first started jogging, doing parkruns at 32, 33 minutes, trying to knock 5 or 6 seconds off each time, that kept me going back week after week, that consistent benchmark. And with Hyrox, it's not a weekly event anyway. You might do 1 or 2 a year. You're not going to get bored of it. Right, before I go through the individual events and my expectation as to how I do at each one, my training this weekend started with a park run because most of my run training lately has been long distance stuff. And obviously for Hyrox, with all those 1Ks to do, I need to be able to go a bit quicker. Did the run at Thames Valley Park in Reading and it was absolute mud bath. Every step forward was accompanied by a slip backwards. Must have added at least a minute to my time easily. Having said that, felt good from the start, my breathing, my heart rate, all nice and consistent. Never felt like I was near the limit. One guy flew off, he was the only one to get under 20 minutes yesterday. 3 others behind him and then me. And I sat in that position pretty much the whole way around. A few hundred meters to go, I moved up into 4th and got 20 minutes sewing. Super happy with that, especially as I arrived a bit late and everyone was all lined up at the start. So I just went and stood at the front. I'm sure there's some muttering behind me about what does this big lump think he's doing here. Got to love those little people. So that lets me know that I can do a 4-minute kilometre easily enough. And that's my plan to start off the Hyrox runs. One of the really cool things about Hyrox is you can go onto the website and you can find any event and look up not only the times that everyone did, but also the times they did for individual events. So for example, London last year, my age group, the guy that won that group started off running a sub 4-minute kilometre and his last one was around a 4:30. Jumped to around halfway down that group and that guy started off at 5 minutes and slowed to almost 6. So if I can kick off with a 3:55, something like that, be real happy. Right, after parkrun to the gym. Started off with a bit of a row yesterday to warm up and then moved on to some rack pulls. But you know what the problem with this session was? Lack of focus. Focus. See what I did there? Because of the picture quality. How do I not have 1 million subscribers? Right, question I get a lot. How do I balance endurance work with heavy lifting? And more lately, what am I doing specifically regarding Hyrox training? And I would love to tell you that there is a huge amount of scientific thought behind it all, but the reality is there isn't much thought at all. And there doesn't need to be, not for me. I'm not a professional athlete, I'm just for the most part mucking about. And luckily, because most people are sat on the sofa eating donuts, even mucking about a fitness elevates me above average. It's like the guy putting on trainers when he sees a lion. His mate says, you can't run faster than a lion. He says, I don't need to, just need to run faster than you. That is me, just looking to beat people, not bothering to wear trainers. So right now, I break my training down into 2 or 3 day chunks. When I get 7 days out from Hyrox, I'll bear that in mind and taper everything down that week. But for now, little chunks. I decide what I want to get done in that space of time and then look at each thing I want to do and think, well, if that can go there, then that can go there, and I can't do that there because of that there, and I'll put that over there and then that will fit in there and somehow. I know what you're thinking. For a fitness influencer, it's a good job you're funny. It sounds haphazard, but it works for me. For example, this weekend, I wanted to run fast, lift heavy, do a little Hyrox simulation. I've done lots this week already. Keep my bench press development program going, do a sustained 1 hour hard effort, and some flexibility. Parkrun dealt with the running. For my 1 hour hard effort, I wanted to do a ride in here on the bike up Alpe Du Zwift. If you use Zwift, you'll know that climb is both physically hard work and psychologically demanding. Being 35-45 minutes in and knowing you've still got to do an awful lot of work for another 10 or 15 minutes, that is the mental side that is great prep for Hyrox. So the plan was to do that this morning, which meant yesterday's gym session could not be too leggy because that would then mess up the bike ride. So instead, I started off yesterday with some rack pulls, 200 kilograms, 5 reps, supersetted into some 40 kilo dumbbell deadlifts for 8 reps. I know some people don't like rack pulls for all sorts of reasons, but I enjoy them, very easy on my lower back compared to regular deadlifts. I like lifting and holding something heavy. It's great for my grip strength, good for my upper back, and also just stimulating my body to remember that despite running around a lot, I want to be strong. I don't need to be weightlifter strong, powerlifter strong, but I do want to be strong. And the dumbbell work just adds a nice bit of extra endurance to the whole process and lets me go through a full range of motion with the posterior chain. Posterior chain, got a vague idea what I'm talking about. 5 sets of that and I'm then done with heavy lifting. So while I'm tired from that but not exhausted, great time to hit the Hyrox simulation. Goes easy on the legs this one. 500 meter row, under 1 minute 40 every time, into 1 arm rows to simulate rope pulling, and then some explosive dumbbell pressing to simulate wall balls. Both done to failure and then back on the rower 4 times around. And I'm trying to do shortish mini simulations for Hyrox like that, maybe 5 times a week. Maybe one of them will be a bit longer, perhaps include some running on the treadmill in between sessions, just getting myself used to moving between exercises, maintaining momentum and maintaining motivation. This late in the game, I can't massively improve my fitness or my strength, but I can prime myself to be ready for the challenge. Talking of which, let's go through the 8 Hyrox challenges, and for each one, I'm going to give it an assumptive likely performance outcome score.
Surely you can't be serious.
Marks out of 10, how might I do, based almost entirely on guesswork. And I'm going to use some clips from Hunter McIntyre's event in Dallas last year, which he filmed and said he was happy for me to include here. He also said, hey, you're the above average British guy with a cute dog and the funny jokes. I love your stuff on YouTube. He didn't say that, he had no idea who I was, but he did say I could use his video, so I'll link his YouTube account down below. Go check out his stuff or look him up on Instagram. He was, I think, pretty much fastest on every single event in the whole competition and won the whole thing overall. So what you're seeing is kind of how it should be done, not how I expect to do it. So the event starts off with the first run. As I said, my hope is to go around 4 minutes for run 1 and try not to go much beyond 5 in the later runs. I'm far from a great runner, but for my size, not too bad. So I'm going to give the running a 6.9 out of 10. By the way, Hunter's first kilometre, 3 minutes 4 seconds, bonkers. First challenge, ski erg. I used one of these for the very first time a couple of weeks ago at a gym called Rumble Fitness in Milton Keynes. I went and did their Hyrox introduction session where they introduced a group of us to all the events that we will find in Manchester. Super useful to have done that. What I discovered about the ski erg is that if you can wave your arms up and down, you can use a ski erg. I'm sure there are some technique pointers that will improve anybody's performance, but I don't think it's quite the same as something like a rowing machine where technique can make a big difference. It also seems that long arms and being tall gives a huge range of motion on it, and that seems to help as well. Certainly at Rumble Fitness, when we did a full run through, I went head to head with another guy. He got onto the ski erg before me, started before me. I finished the ski erg before him though. Overall, we had pretty comparable fitness levels, but I had a good 10 inches in height on him. So despite lack of experience, I'm going to go 7.6 on this one. My hope is that no one in my age group is going to beat my first run massively, maybe 15-20 seconds at most, meaning if I'm onto the ski erg after a reasonable run, I could be starting run 2 nicely placed, and that would be a great confidence booster. Challenge 2, 50 metre sled push, 125 kilos plus the sledge. Interestingly, one of the few challenges where if you enter the pro division, it's slightly different, 175 kilos. So you'll occasionally see an open competitor beat a pro competitor in the same event. Could be because they've got an easier task to do. If you're wondering what makes someone pro, I did ask, seems a bit vague. Basically, if you're really good and want to race the best in the world, you race pro. I'm not racing pro. Like the ski erg, first time I've ever pushed a sledge was at Rumble Fitness, and it does seem compared to other people there having a go that just weighing a lot helps. I'm going to be dropping a bit of weight over the next 3 weeks, but I'll still be 93, 94 kilos at least. Having said that, you still need to push with your legs, and so I guess somebody lighter than me, but with the ability to say squat 100 kilos more than me, they're going to leave me standing. But my hope is to not get into a situation that some of the real lightweight people get into, where they're pushing it a foot, having to stop and take a rest, push it another foot and so on. It just takes them a long time. It's also tricky for me to train this one without a sledge. I'm using the resistance treadmill at the gym, set to maximum to try and simulate it as best I can. I'm going to say 6 out of 10. Challenge 3, 50 metre sled pull. 75 kilos plus the sledge, 125 for pros. At Rumble Fitness, I was able to avoid using my legs and just kind of anchor myself with my body weight and then just use my upper body strength to pull it. That isn't really the recommended technique. You're supposed to use legs a bit more, but it seemed to work fine for me. Gave my legs a rest. I'm confident on this one, 7.2. Challenge 4 is where being a big lump stops working in my favour. 80 metre burpee jumps. There is no getting around it. Getting 6'6" up and down and jumping about is hard work. I will get crushed by lighter guys. Horrific, 3 out of 10. But I love that it's in the competition. At Rumble Fitness, me and the guys head to head with, we went backwards and forwards in position depending on who suited what challenge better at that time. And we finished overall literally within seconds of each other. And I love that aspect of it, that somebody would always find something hard and something easy. Back to my weekend's training for a moment. Yesterday evening, felt good, not too drained from what I'd already done, ready for the bike ride the next day, so jumped in the sauna for 45 minutes, did a combination of writing this and some stretching, all with an elevated heart rate from the heat. Studies show sauna cardio benefits, not as good as hard training, but far surpass sitting on the sofa, so free fitness basically, and leaves me feeling really relaxed and ready for bed. Consequently, my Aura ring this morning said my readiness today, high, great night's sleep. Only red issue on sleep was timing, because I went to bed a bit late actually, because after the sauna we squeezed in a couple of episodes of Narcos, but had a lie-in to compensate. And then onto the bike for Alpe Du Zwift in here. Fast Hyrox time is a bit over an hour. Looking at all the open men from London last year, the fastest guy 1 hour 3, the slowest squeezed under 3 hours. 147 people. On the list that long, be great to be top 50. That means I need to go around 1 hour 20. Alpe Du Zwift is an hour of hard sustained effort, so a really good simulator for staying focused on outputting a sustained effort over that sort of duration. My PB, 59.09, I went into it feeling good this morning. We'll pick it up again in a bit and see how I got on. Hyrox Challenge 5. The rower. Now, depending on if my legs still work after those burpees and the following run, this could be where the magic happens, or I die, all or nothing time. Looking at London, no one got under 4 minutes, and even in the pros, only 3 guys scraped under. In isolation, I can do a 1,000 metre row in around 3 minutes 20. I'm guessing that slightly because I've not used a rower in about 30 years properly, but it's like riding a bike. So my hope here is to be able to go at a pace that allows me to recover, but still go pretty quick relative to others. Maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but I'd be gutted to not go under 4 minutes. As I say, could be way out on this one, and by the time I get to this challenge, I'll be toast and row a 5:30 or something. But I'm making a stand here for 2 tall people everywhere and saying this gets me 9.2. Challenge 6, farmer's carry, 200 metres, 2 24 kilo kettlebells, 32 for the pros. As a percentage of body weight, it's not too heavy for me. Best case scenario, I come into this riding hype and just having smashed that row, run that 200 metres like I'm bringing in the shopping from the car. Worst case, I drop it on my foot. Think positive, 8 out of 10. Challenge 7, 100 metre weighted lunges. Same weight to be carried as the farmer's carry, 24 and 32 kilos. This one though, like the burpees, doesn't lend itself to big people. I've got a long way up and down to go when lunging, and on top of the weight I'm carrying, I've got my own body weight to move. At Rumble Fitness, this was brutal. I went into the run after this, literally all over the place, looked like I was drunk. 3.9. Right, back to Alpe Du Zwift. I hit the 10th corner halfway point way inside 30 minutes, so almost guaranteed sub-hour at this point. It then just came down to how much inside the hour I was going to get. So exciting, in fact, that Jen came to watch. In fact, talking of watching as spectators, off on a tangent, here's something that appeals about Hyrox. People can watch all of it close up. The last Spartan race I did, Jen stood in the freezing cold in the dark to see me set off at 6:50 in the morning or something, and then she hung around the finish line for over an hour because she wasn't sure when I'd emerge from the woods to finish the thing. Now, some races are better than others, but overall, it's just not really a great spectator sport. Hyrox, though, looks amazing for that. Jen will be there, camera in hand, able to get real close, cheering me on, hopefully. Can't wait for that part of it. Okay, back to the Alp. 57.24. Could not have gone quicker. Body was at the limit afterwards. Everything shut down. Then I had to lie down. Gave Nick no chance to get his sodium intake back up though. Super happy with that, and a new PB. Which left only my bench press session to get in today, which I finished about hour and a bit ago. Right now I'm working on upping my maximum lift on the bench, and I've got a real weakness on the final part of the lift, which is mainly triceps. Long arm levers make it a real struggle. Today's session was therefore just a lot of tricep work, close grip bench press, push downs, dips, nothing too stressful on the whole body, which is good after that ride. and the bit that was stressed, my arms, were feeling fine anyway, so no real overlap. Right, the last Hyrox event is wall balls. You do a full squat and then stand and throw a 6 kilo ball at a 10-foot high target 100 times. It's as straightforward as that sounds. First time I'd ever done it was again at Rumble Fitness, and I found it okay. Actually, I found the ball almost too light. I was overthrowing it too high at one point, but you have 100 reps to go, so you soon sort of settle into a rhythm. I've also done a bit of reading on whether people think being tall is good or bad for wall balls. Some people say shorter athletes, good, easier squat. Some people say taller athletes, good, less distance to throw the ball. The science seems to err slightly in favour of taller athletes. I think ultimately though, this one's going to come down not to size or strength or anything like that. It's going to come down to up here really. When you've got 20 or 30 reps to go and you're dying, do you break it down into sort of blocks of 5, taking a rest each time? Or do you just think, this is nearly over, I finished these and I run across the finish line, just get them done and die afterwards? It's going to come down to how exhausted am I and what's left up here really. I'm going to go 5 out of 10. Okay, that is Hyrox, and that is my weekend of training for it. A fast run, heavy lifts, mini Hyrox session, sauna, Alpe Du Zwift bench press session. Back in the sauna tonight for some more stretching. Also, while I'm in the sauna tonight, I'll plan the next few days training. At this stage, I know I want to do a longer 15k run. I want to do a short race on Zwift in here. Obviously some more Hyrox stuff. And I'll then just fill in the gaps with whatever else works. How do I think I do overall at Hyrox? I'm hopeful of being above average in my age group. If I could be above average across all ages, that would be absolutely amazing for my first time out. Anything better is going to be a bonus. I'm going to link in the description below to the Hyrox website if you want to go and check them out, and I suggest you do. After Manchester, London in April is the next one. Plenty of time to train for that. Whatever happens with Ironman, I'm always definitely going to be doing London. And as I said at the start, don't think it's for super athletes. It's not just for super athletes anyway. Go on their website, check out some of the slower times. There are plenty of people doing this thing that are not running 3-minute kilometers. And you can do it in pairs, you can do a relay as well. Share the burden if you want to do it like that. Take a mate along. I think it's going to be big. Doing these Hyrox sessions in the gym has been a real nice change for me, as opposed to just doing long, steady state cardio or heavy lifting. To be bouncing from one thing to the next, dripping in sweat, watching the clock, counting the reps. It's just been a lot of fun. Okay, any questions? Stick them down below. Like and subscribe, please. I'm on the edge of 30,000 subs now, which is mad. If you haven't subscribed, you are holding things back, you anti-subber. So wash your hands and click that button. Okay, I'm out of here. See you on the next one.